Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the 105 Infinity Wield Sorceress build that I've been using in Season 1 ladder of D2R. This was as per patch 2.4. A couple of things changed, one of which was that Nova got a 100% damage increase, which made Nova build a bit more viable. And then the other thing is that the mana burn was in fact fixed. It was working at a 256 modifier, I think it was, and now it's working appropriately. So energy shield builds and all those types of things are now viable again. So let me kind of go through it and explain how it all works and why we use what we use. So starting off with the gear, let's start off with the gear. Now these are obviously optimal kind of setups, quote unquote. There is some flexibility in it depending on which way you wanted to go. The general rule of thumb is you're probably going to push for about a 105, and one of the key pieces is the Infinity. So Scythe, you're going to want to sit with a Scythe wielding, because one of the benefits is that enemy lightning resist that's sitting at 54 on this one, it actually applies to the mob. So when you use an Infinity on, say, your Mercenary, that doesn't affect you as the player. It affects your Mercenary, which is kind of null and void. So really the only thing that they get the benefit of is the enhanced damage. So when you wield it, you get that minus enemy lightning resist. So what does that mean? That means basically when I use Conviction Aura and it breaks the immunity, it's bringing those immunities that you broke down a little bit further, and you do more damage. Now it doesn't show that on the tooltip itself, but if you were to use something like maxroll.gg, they have a gear planner there, and the damage modifiers are applied when you use things like minus enemy lightning resistance. So in combination of that with Griffins itself, it works hand in hand, and I use a facet inside there, a lightning facet. If you're able to, Ormus robes is what I like to go with, and I put a lightning facet inside that as well. Optimally a 2 and 20 FCR amulet, but anybody that comes around the stream, you'll know that I used a 2 and 20 druid for the longest time. So really it's whatever, just to make the FCR breakpoints go. That's really kind of the catch-22. So I like to run Mage Fist. There are other builds that you could use Frostburn, but preferably I like Mage Fist because of the way the FCR breakdown works, and I like to run 2 SOJs. So that's kind of where some of the trade-off is in these 3 pieces, kind of your rings, Mage Fist, maybe Frostburns, you might need to go Viper, something like that, but personally I like Ormus. Arachnid Mesh, pretty cookie cutter. Now the boots are a bit of a flexibility. You can go a couple different ways. You could go Silkweave, you could go Sandstorm Trek like I am, maybe War Travs, something like that. You could even get like a Tri-Res rare boots or something like that. But for me, I like Sandstorm Trek, mostly because of the poison resist, and we'll talk about that in a second. But that's primarily what I do. Now we're going to talk about the weapon swap, because there's a few different things here depending on your setup as to what you can do. I get the benefit of using a Battle Order Barbarian on another account. There's a couple ways of looking at this. You should, in the beginning, probably run an Energy Shield Memory Staff, and it gives 9 to Energy Shield. And the reason behind this is you want to cap Energy Shield the fastest that you can to skill level 40. So you can put 20 raw points in it, and you need to bump it up to 40 in some way, shape, or and form. So when I have a BO from my Barbarian, this goes from 39 and it bumps it right up to 40, and that's exactly where I need to be. But up until recently, I was using a memory staff. Now people will ask, well, what about a CTA? What if I don't have a BO barb? There's a couple ways that you can look at this. Now I'm kind of set up with a bougie setup. I do plague, because then I can cleanse for things like poison and the blood curse from Bale and things like that. Now the reason why I'm using a lidless is because I don't want to pump as much strength as a typical build. As you can see, I'm done at 49, and with all the plus on my skill or on my gear, I'm at 107. So I could go a Monarch, a Spirit Monarch, but I choose to just go with the lidless because it saves me some talent points. So on the trade-off, you could do the same kind of concept of the breakdown that I'm going. Again, look, 49 base, 25, I put nothing in there, nothing into vitality, and the rest is into energy. You could go for the Monarch. Personally, I don't think that's a move, but that's up to you. Now, with that said, here's what you would probably look like in the beginning, is you could do something like this. You could do a CTA with a lidless, and you could pump your own CTA. and then in your cube you can roll a memory staff and just quickly flip between that. I don't have one, I lent mine out, but you could just swap it really quick, and then energy shield, and then slap back on your infinity. Now that might be too much work for most. I'm pretty lazy, so I totally understand. So if you don't want to go that route, you could just hold the memory staff here until you get high enough level, which is around, I think 93, around 93, 94 range off the top of my head, to max out 40 without needing a memory staff. That's the kicker. So around 93, 94, you won't need a memory staff anymore. So leading up to that, you could go ahead and take that route, and then you could potentially just go into the CTA and be totally fine. If it is in the cards, you can go something like this with the plague, and then you get the cleansing for, again, the poison, blood curses, and stuff like that. But this is not needed. It's just something that I realized that I could do, so I started doing that. Big shout out to Ginger Fury for bringing that to my attention, because I wasn't really paying attention. And then for the inventory, again, this is a bit of a subjective thing, but personally speaking, Nova doesn't have the craziest top end in comparison to Lightning and Chain Lightning. So what I like to do is go as many skillers as I can. Now, one of the big changes in a recent patch here mid-season was that you can ID from the cube. So because of that, I actually had different setups for my inventory here, and now I added one more skiller. Before, this was placed over here with like a identify tome over here, and now I've mitigated that. I throw it away, I put everything into the cube, I ID off of Kane, and then boom, you're good to go. Now I run all lightning skillers throughout here personally. The torch as per normal, the Annie as per normal. I keep a set of keys with my town portal, and then for the small charms, you could really have some flexibility here. For me, I go the resistances, I go the magic find with mana. You could do something like the 2016s, 2017s, whatever you can get. Anything that can give you maybe mana primarily, and then with the hint of HP if you can get away with it. But that's the general itemization. I know that's quite a bit to digest, but there is some flexibility in your swap, case in point. And you could go things like Viper Magi and stuff, and I'm going to tell you why I don't think that that's the play. Now, coming back over to your actual resistances. Now, one of the things with Energy Shield, and we'll talk about the talents here in just a moment, but Energy Shield is this: it directs damage to your mana pool. So because of that, a couple of things change in the game. Now, in the game, when you're looking at resistances and you're looking at faster hit recovery, that is actually applied to damage that goes to your HP, not your mana. What does that mean? That basically means that I don't have to cap out my resistances. I can leave them the way that they are. Technically, you could put a bit of focus on poison resistance, because poison does go through the energy shield, and etc, etc. But the faster hit recovery, you don't really need to. So this is why I go with Ormus with a facet versus Viper. I don't believe that Viper is the play, but if that's what you have, then that's what you have. It can change as time goes on. Case in point, you want to get this to a level 40 because it caps out at the absorb at 95%. That is why you want to cap Energy Shield at 40, because it's 95% absorb. That's the case in point. That's how all of this ties in. Okay. So strength, when you're itemizing, when you're putting in your attributes, it's really strength up to what you want to wear. As long as you have enough strength to wear what you want to wear, thumbs up, you're good to go, and the rest goes into energy. It's very cutthroat, very simple. That's all you need to do. Now, before we go into the talents, I will show you the mercenary build that I personally have right now. Because you're wearing the infinity, you do get away with being able to run a insight. As you can see, I'm going to move myself away. The insight CV, you can put it in whatever base you really want to, but the case in point, if you can hit a 17 med, then double thumbs up, life is good. Obviously, critical strike is a variable, but at the end of the day, the 17 med is what's going to really help you out. Now, the other one is fortitude. In the beginning, you might do something like treachery and then move over into a fortitude. We're pretty much bougie status in the latter now, so Kraken Shell is what we're rolling with. And then the Andario's Visage. Again, you might go with Tal's Helm or something, maybe Crown or something like that in the beginning, but optimally, you're going to want something with Andy's down the road. I have the luxury of putting in, I think this is a 15 increased attack speed with 26 fire resist. That's why the fire resist is still -4. That's right there. So over to the talent trees. This is how I spec. The cold, I just put 1 into frozen armor. Good to go. We move on. 1 into warmth, because it starts to weight as you get further. Maybe in the beginning I wouldn't really do this, maybe a little bit towards the end, maybe midway, something like that. But as your mana pool gets larger and larger and larger, this warmth weights larger, larger and larger. Now back into the lightning. Really simple breakdown here. You're gonna go static field. You're gonna max this out when you can. You're gonna, in the early stages, you're probably not gonna go this Nova spec until you have Infinity. That's like one of the biggest pieces for this entire build. So chances are, by the time you hit where you have an Infinity, you're probably going to be like in your 80s or something like that. So again, you're going to cap out static field with 20 points. You're going to cap out Nova with 20 points. You're going to put 20 points into Lightning Mastery, and then you're going to actually put 20 points into Telekinesis. And then you're going to get 1 into Charge Bolt, 1 into Lightning, 1 into Chain Lightning, and then 1 into Energy Shield after you get your Tele. Now, your last point dump is going to be into Energy Shield. That's where you're going to basically cap up last, put it up as high as you can. And the reason is because Telekinesis has a modifier at 6% mana consumption per level, which actually normally weights, I think, through and through, it weights more than a raw point into Energy Shield. So typically people go with maxing Telekinesis and then they put the rest of the points into Energy Shield. So the reason why I have Thunderstorm is, well, I'm going to be honest, it looks cool. And I'm at the point now where I don't need anything more into Energy Shield. So we went into Thunderstorm. And again, that was at level 95 that I hit about that point. So all in all, that's really the 105 Nova Sorceress in a nutshell. I get asked this a lot on stream, so I kind of wanted to share my thoughts and breakdown of the actual build for you guys. So anything else? See you in chat. Ask away in the comments. Otherwise, enjoy and have a fun ladder. See ya.